We've now done a whole bunch of discussion about the app that we're going to build, talked about challenges around it, and I don't think we can put it off any longer. I think it's really time to start working on this application. So in the last section, we did start up the installation of our new app. So my installation is complete here. I'm going to change into my project directory, and I'm calling the app manager. So I'm changing into the manager project folder. And I'm going to start up my code editor. Now our goal in this section is to get through a whole bunch of setup. Okay, so we've kind of got a real big stack of setup to do. We have to install React, we have to install Redux, we have to hook up those index files, we have to bring over our default components. Definitely a hefty little bit of setup here. I know that the setup can get a little bit tedious, but there's a lot of just having mastery over that default setup I think is very valuable. And so even though this is like the fourth time that we're going through the setup, I really think it is a valuable exercise to just figure out how this stuff is all put together from scratch. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get to it. I don't really necessarily have any set order of what the best way to go about this is, so I think we're just going to kind of do this on whatever's easiest to get started sort of way. So I think first we'll install some dependencies, then we'll set up our boilerplate, and then we'll bring over some default components. So the first thing we're going to do is install the Redux and React Redux libraries. So I'm back at the command line. I'll run npm install -- save React Redux and Redux. So remember, the React Redux library is specifically the bindings between React and Redux. That's why we're installing that. And of course, Redux is just Redux. So we don't really need to watch the progress bar here. We can let it do its thing and flip back over to our code base. So next, I think we should set up our root component. Remember, the root component is where we're going to create our Redux store. We're going to place that provider tag, and then we're going to make sure that the two index files point at that root component. So inside of my project directory, I'll make a new folder that's going to house all the code for our project. And I'm going to call this just src. And then inside of here, I'm going to make my root component, which I'm going to call app.js. Okay, so here's app.js. We'll get started by importing React and component, because we are going to create a component in here, and I am going to make it a class-based component for reasons that we'll talk about in a little bit. We will import the provider tag from React Redux. We will import the create store method from Redux. And you know what? Let's import the view and text tags from React Native as well. You can also tell that I have not yet set up my ESLint configuration. I'm going to do that here between the next break. So for right now, I'm going to go just without ESLint. No big deal. Next, we'll create our root component. So class app extends component. We'll place our render method inside of here. And by default, we will return our provider tag. And inside of there, I'm going to place a single view with my text tag. And I'm just going to say hello for right now. Now, of course, I'm probably going to be running this on iOS. So as we've seen, we're going to get a little bit of overlay on the top nav bar, or the top default connection bar on iOS. No big deal. We're going to replace this thing really quickly, but I just want to have something on the screen just to make sure that something's actually working. So finally at the bottom, we will export default app. Now, last step in here, we need to make sure that we give the provider tag an instance of a Redux store. So remember, the provider tag is what connects to all those different connect tags that we scatter about our application. And the provider tag makes sure that all those connect tags can get access to the store, grab our Redux state, and then pass it off to individual components. So inside the provider tag, we'll pass it a store with create store like so. And then we're going to, I think that this component's probably in a pretty good place right now. So we'll go ahead and wire it up to our two index files at the top level. So inside of my index.android.js, let's go ahead and, we can probably clear out just about everything in here. I'll take out the top import I'm going to take out all of the other imports for the React Native and just leave behind app registry, because we do know that we need that app registry component. Now here comes the real fun part. We get to delete just about everything in here, except for that app registry register component tag at the bottom. So we will import app from source app. And then instead of returning this little manager component, the default one, we'll return our new component, the one that we just created, the app component. So let's save that. I think that the index Android.js file now looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to take all of this, I'm going to copy it, and I'll pull it over to the index iOS.js file as well and save it. Okay, so this is good. Good start. We've now got something that should be able to run in both the Android and iOS simulators. So I think that's enough setup for this section. Let's take a quick break. During the break, one last thing that I want to do is I'm going to start up my simulator. So we'll run React Native run iOS. And this is going to take a little minute or two to warm up. So I'm going to take a quick break while this warms up, and then we'll come back and just verify that our project actually runs on the simulator. So I'll see you in just a second.